For more than 100 years, the Urban League of Essex County has been a beacon of hope, empowerment, resilience, advocacy, and trusted resource by providing vital services that promote economic advancement and stability for families across Newark and the broader Essex County region. As the social, political, and economic tides shift with each passing decade, one thing does remain constant: the Urban League's unwavering commitment to uplifting underserved communities, advocating for equity, and building bridges to opportunity. And today on the WBGO Journal, we are talking about the Urban League of Essex County and its programs. And joining us is Vivian Cox Frazier, the president and CEO of the Urban League of Essex County. Great to see you, Vivian.
Thank you. Great being here.
Also joining us is Darren Sharif, Executive Director of the Urban League of Essex County Newark Kids Code Tech House and former Newark City Councilman. Always great to see you, Darren.
Good to see you again. It's been a long time, my friend. Thank you.
It has, and we're going to talk about your passion in just a moment. But I want to start off with you, Vivian. You've been the president and CEO of the Urban League of Essex County since 2004. That's quite a commitment. Why do you do it?
Well, that's a good question, but when I first came to the Urban League, the funny story is I was supposed to be here just for the summer. And when I got here to the Urban League more than 20 years ago, I just felt like I saw the great potential the organization had to have an impact. And I just, every day there's a new challenge and a new opportunity to help families. And I just really felt like this institution that had done so much, could do a lot more. We could have a bigger impact. And so really, it's been a labor of love for these 20 years. I didn't think I would be here that long when I started because I had a career and I was, bouncing around quite a bit. But, they say God puts you where you're supposed to be. And I've definitely felt that way, since I've come to the Urban League.
Well, obviously, you made the right choice because the Urban League of Essex County continues to grow under your leadership. Darren, now this new program, this Urban League Tech House 7-week coding boot camp, was open to 6th through 8th graders and it's winding down. I know you're very passionate about this. How's it been going?
It has been phenomenal, and I'm kind of sequestered in the kitchen. And I think 12:30 he'll be rambling down to come into the kitchen. But I popped up into the rooms to say that I was on an important call. But to see 30 young people, 11, 12, and 13-year-olds come into a camp not knowing anything about coding, 3D printing, math, or filmmaking. And then today is day 26. And for them to talk in the language of the different technologies that they've learned, and they've been with us, started July the 7th, Monday through Friday, 9:30 until 4:30, and they have each one of those four technologies. And I said to the parents, if they come hardworking and curious, they will develop what I call a set of superpowers that when the fall comes, we're going to have these kids on Saturday, not that long, for 2 or 3 hours, and they'll be in a less structured environment. So the programs and projects that they worked on in the summer, they'll be able to pursue those projects. And I showed you before we came on air. Every now and then, like I'll go in the room. So I went in the 3D printing room and say, "What are they doing?" And this, Doug, it's like a Formula 500 race car. But if you saw this in multicolor, because it's only allowed to print one color, in all of these are shapes that this young person from his brain really just assembled to create this car. And that you can imagine something and that you can bring it into existence. That's the special thing to see. The same thing with coding, and that was the genesis of how we got started in 2015 with the great partnership that we still have with NGIT, that they literally learn the building blocks of everything that you see when you turn on a computer, when you look at something on television. And so it's just really special. And I just always give like a big shout out to our fearless leader, Vivian Fraser. She came in 2003. I came the year after, and just her vision for not just a tech house to look at a community and to say, hey, we can just concentrate on one thing, or we can take a holistic approach. And from like the housing that we build, the senior training programs, and that unfortunately took a hit, and we have to like raise funds to try to replace that, to these kind of programs, like the Tech House. It really is, like she said, this is what God wanted me to do. And so I'm grateful that she's given me this opportunity, to be a part of the Urban League team.
Darren, the age group that you're talking about is so important. They are learning skills. Not only, I know it's fun too. That's the thing. It's fun, it's exciting, but it gives them a path toward maybe the future, maybe
Yes.
something they had never thought of before.
Yes. Yeah, and I just want to, so Doug, you're so right. And one, when you are 11 years old, in fact, I don't want to get myself into trouble with Vivian. When we had the orientations, this person was walking up the steps like late June, and I said, "Wow, she's awful short to be an 11-year-old." So she came up the stairs, and I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "My name is Amelia, and I'm 8 years old." And then I just looked at her and I said to her mom, I said, "Oh, mom, I'm so sorry. She's 8." And then the mother said, "No, she's like so bright. She's so smart." So I'm always like a sucker for like a story. But this young person, it is like amazing the way her brain works. And she's able to like socialize with 11, 12, and 13-year olds. But I just want to just share one thing because, like Vivian had it right, it's not just for kids, right? We have programs for like older people, just to make them, I don't say digitally literate, but digitally fluent. And then we have specialized credential classes for people who want to enter, like adults who want to enter a specialty, whether it's like networking, coding, Amazon Web Services. But all of that, somebody said to me, like, how would you what is the essence of the tech house? And then I had to think about it. And so I just want to read this. It's to cultivate, right? And so that's to develop, it's to grow, it's to improve something. And when you say cultivation, it's normally like crops or plants, but you can cultivate someone, and it's through care, effort, and attention. And at the end of the day, when somebody comes into the tech house, old or young, they, in a very short time in this environment, which is super supportive, loaded with technology, they cultivate these skills that allow them to be empowered and to think and to do things that they never thought about before they came into the tech house.
Darren mentioned a very important thing. It takes money to run anything. And so, with funds in jeopardy in various spots, and also the Urban League of Essex County, definitely seeing those funds depleted in certain areas. Vivian, talk about this gala coming up and the importance of people helping out and making sure that all the great programs and Darren mentioned from young kids to our elderly, that's one of the beauties of the Urban League of Essex County. It helps everyone and in the community. Tell us about how the funds are needed and the gala itself.
Sure. Well, thanks for that, Doug. We certainly have experienced cuts in funding due to the change in priorities from this federal administration. And, so we've been yeah, so we're constantly juggling when funding ends to try to fill those gaps. The gala is an important fundraising opportunity for us because one, it gives us the opportunity to celebrate and promote the Urban League's work, to share with the community our successes and what we've accomplished. But at the same time, government funds comes with a lot of restrictions. So the gala is important in helping us raise funds that are more flexible to help people where they need them, not necessarily be very prescriptive about what the government grant might say you could spend money on. And I'll give an example. We have a reentry program for returning citizens. And the funder says, well, we'll give you funding for your reentry program, but you can't give any money to the participants. Okay. But then how do they eat? How do they survive to be in a training program without resources? So the Urban League Gala is our own major and only fundraiser that we do. So the unrestricted funds, whether you buy tickets, table, sponsorship, ads, all of those resources go directly to support the Urban League's programs in important ways. And I would say that also for the gala, uh, it is a party. We do have a great time. So it gives you a chance to meet and connect with people who are supportive of the Urban League's mission, which is, social advancement for underserved communities. So if you care about that and you want to see that work continue, it's important that we get the support for our gala. But if you don't want to go to a gala, I want to give everybody an opportunity to go to our website, ulec.org, and you can hit that donate button. I think we even have a QR code. Like any way you want to connect and give to the Urban League, you can. It could be your time, your talent, and your resources. If it's funding, if you can connect us to businesses that might need to have talented people come work for them. We have a workforce development program. And I would say, just in general, for the Urban Leagues program, Darren mentioned it's a holistic approach, right? So we're seeing now there's shifts in the employment market. And in fact, 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs since Donald Trump came into office, right? So many of the areas that are being impacted, education, training, social justice like EPA, the entire environmental justice group was wiped out. Many of those areas are areas that actually employed Black women and individuals like that. So we are really feeling the impact. We're kind of like the canary in the coal mine, they say, like Black unemployment goes up. That's going to happen to somebody else. And what we see is that when somebody loses their job, pretty soon, next thing they know, they're going to lose their house. So, that's not only affecting their income today, it's also the wealth of their family, the stability of our community. So our work really is holistic around keeping people in their homes, helping them maintain their employment, and also improve their employment. So our Financial Opportunity Center really does work with people to, one, make sure every resources that's available to them, they get in their home. Can you qualify for Social Security? Can your family qualify for Medicaid? Well, all of these programs are at risk. So what we see now for low-income families, many of the social safety net programs are at risk, and they've been at risk before in other administrations, but maybe it's one area that's been affected, another. But right now, it's the entire social safety net, from rental assistance, Medicaid, Social Security, SNAP, child care subsidies, the seniors program. I'm saying it's every safety net program that exists to help low-income families are literally being shredded. So if not for the Urban League, these families would not have resources. And that's why we're here to have to promote this gala. It's important for individuals that you can give, whatever you can give. I mean, if you can't buy a ticket, if you can't sponsor a table, hey, there's other ways to give. And we really want you to connect to the Urban League. We have a Young Professionals Auxiliary. We have a guild for people who are 40 and over is the guild, and 40 and under is our young professionals. You can volunteer. You can support initiatives of the Urban League through your time as well. So, and talent. So there's lots of ways to give. And certainly the gala is, no, it is our major fundraiser, and that's October 21st will be the gala at Nanina's. We'll have great honorees, a great time, and certainly hope people will come out and support.
Nina's in the Park is 540 Mill Street in Belleville. And once again, that's October 21st at 6 p.m., the Urban League Annual Gala. Darren, through the years now, what have you noticed as the biggest change and the biggest challenge, either when it comes to the youth or maybe other programs? Like, every week, every Thursday, the Urban League of Essex County has a food pantry, just showing the needs of citizens that, are struggling to make ends meet.
So the biggest change and the biggest challenge for me, there are two things. I mean, the biggest change when I came to Fairmont, well, like 20 years ago, like the composition of the community, racially, ethnically, it was different. Now it's changed, but that's like a good thing. There's beauty in a diversity. But the biggest challenge, Doug, and it's kind of related to the food pantry, the biggest challenge, and it hasn't changed, is the overall condition of our schools, public and charter. So charter schools aren't better. They're not worse than district schools. And a part of how we're going to address that is the literacy campaign. When you look at those scores, it's one thing when you look at a chart, but when you look at a person that is two, three grade levels behind, like it breaks your heart because you know if you don't close and erase that gap, then they're going to start off with a real challenge that they might not be able to overcome. And so the Urban League and the work that we've done in the holistic view in our Financial Opportunity Center, once somebody comes into our orbit, they are eligible for many, many services that can help them and their family that they don't know about. And I say this to all due respect to my prior job, being a council person, right? We can pass a budget, we can make ordinances, local laws, but the targeted strategic work that we were able to do at the Urban League, and that we have this integrated service delivery model that moves the needle in a way that you could measure. And so under Vivian's leadership, because when she came, we had a small number of programs, and it's grown not just for growth's sake, but because the need dictated like another program that we had to put together in our long-term strategy. So, like she said, we have one time a year to have non-restricted money. And so I am urging people who are watching this, who will watch this, to give big, to give small, to give everything in the middle, because the overwhelming majority of those resources are put to use both in safety net programs, but also trampoline programs, which will give them the skill sets so that they won't need so much of the safety net.
I also remember when you said, if I could just interject a little bit, when you asked about what's different, I would say, Darren mentioned the composition of the neighborhood, but I'm saying, one of the concerns now is that people will get pushed out. The prices of housing in Newark has really skyrocketed. Rents, how do families, working families that are in Newark, how do they sustain themselves? How do they afford to purchase a home or to pay their rent? I think that's one of the biggest change, those economic forces that are at play right now. Folks from other markets such as Brooklyn and other areas, they'll come and say, wow, it's a bargain, like a 900,000, with their houses right in the neighborhood of the Urban League. There's a lot of economic pressure. A two-family home selling for upwards of between eight and $900,000. I'm saying a regular family, a working family, the average working family in Newark can't afford it. And that I say is one of the biggest changes, I think, in pressures that you see in Newark 20 years ago. People say, oh, you don't have to worry about gentrification. There's so much abandonment. You don't have to worry about it. Well, it's here now. So I do say that's one of the biggest changes I've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah, some of the programs that you've mentioned, the early childhood education and care, affordable housing development programs, the reentry programs, all a big part of the Urban League of Essex County. 24 Hours of Peace. That is coming up on Saturday, September 6th. Vivian, you want to talk about that?
Oh, well, we love that. We love that. We love partnering with the city. It's the city's event, and we love being a partner because the Urban League's role is we sponsor a kids zone. So we used to host something called the Fairmont Fair right before the kids go back to school. But now we're really fortunate to be partnering with 24 Hours of Peace. So we'll be responsible for the kids zone. We'll have rides, giveaways, games, lots of games it's like a carnival for the kids. I shouldn't say, but we're going to have the goldfish toss. The kids love that. And we'll have a train, we'll have rides. I love to see the kids just excited and have a great time. And then also, we'll have the haircuts and the book bags and things like that for the kids, just to get them excited. It's the end of summer and it's a way to kick off for the school year, get everybody geared up for what's coming and to be prepared. But the Kids Zone is what the Urban League sponsors at 24 hours apiece, and it's a great way for adults as well as children to enjoy that day.
Darren Sharif has been a Newarker through and through, went through the Newark public school system. So I imagine you see yourself in a lot of these young kids that you're dealing with, whether it be the tech house or the programs itself.
Yeah, definitely. And mentorship is like mentorship, it could be formal or it could be informal. At the, just in the summer camp, I don't have to serve them breakfast, but I do. It gives me opportunity to talk to them, to learn about them, to share things. Lunchtime, they just don't eat. We talk about like geopolitical things. We talk about Congress, like how many Congress people do you have? And so for 20, 30 days, they will be in our immediate like orbit, right? So we have the power of influence on them, and we've developed a special relationship with the parents. And yeah, I say the parents are great parents, and we're just like a member of the team. But I was lucky, Steve, when I grew up. Our house, we called it the public service plantation. My father was a senior aide to Mayor Gibson. I got to work for a number of like political people. I went to school board meetings when he was on the board. And so he was probably one of my more consequential mentors. And I got to be around a strong, black man he never gave me speeches. I just saw what he did every single day. And so you repeat oftentimes like what you're exposed to. So to be able to have this kind of environment for these kids, it is great. And so our challenge, and I think really we're gonna, pardon the pun, crack the code, is to create this immersive environment where it just doesn't end at the summer. So they go through the academic school year. We have like other partners who indicated that, through field trips like NJIT Audible, to so the more kids are exposed to, right? There's a massive exposure gap and a massive knowledge gap that we can play like a real role in like narrowing that gap. But I joke with the kids. I say, Mr. Sharif, I'm getting sad. We have like 5 more days, and that's the truth. This is like kind of like the highlight of the year for me, and all the great things that important things that we do to be able to have access and to impart just a little something to them in their journey, through school and then like ultimately through life.
I know my daughter, who used to teach in the Newark School District several years ago, anytime she gets a letter from a former student who has graduated and says, thanks for helping me out. I'm sure the
Nice.
same is for you, Darren, when
Yeah.
you keep in contact with these students or you see them around, it has to provide so much, joy to you and a real sense of purpose.
And then you're shocked when they remember you. I have the standard line like in the tech house. I'm the cranky old headmaster. So I say in front of the parents and the kids, I'm not your friend, I'm not your buddy, I'm not your chill partner. But we have our ceremony on Friday, and I'm going to repeat that same thing, but I'm going to add one thing to it. I'm not your friend, your partner, or buddy. We're family now. And if we were in my office, I would grab when we were at Sussex Renew in 2018, unknown to me, all these kids like wrote a thank you to me, and that prominently is displayed on the wall in my office, and I see it every day, when I walk in the office. And that's the highest compliment that you can get, like not the salary that you're paid, not accolades, like Mr. Councilman, but for a kid to say something nice, because kids are brutally honest. So they'll tell you like it is. They don't care what titles you have. And so that just reminds me of the important work that all of us do at the Urban League. It's not just me. We have this incredible team, from the instructors to other staff people, department directors who've helped me with this enormously. When I'm trying to figure something out, I can pick up the phone and call Dr. Wilson, Dr. Taylor, Ms. Frazier. We have these great leadership meetings. So, I'm a lifelong learner, and all of the help that I've gotten support from this incredible team at the Urban League, it just makes me a better person. My father said, always chase perfection, Darren. You'll never catch it, but it'll make you a better person for it. And that's what I say to these kids. But there's something special, and this is their world. And literally, like through coding, this is the world that they can create, like through the superpowers that they acquire in this house, if we just stick with them and they stick with us. So,
And they become the superheroes in the end,
yes,
with all
yeah.
those powers. Vivian, before we wrap up, there's always, concern about reentry programs. Do they work? And so, I just wanted you to touch upon the reentry program for the Urban League of Essex County and maybe a success story that can give us, some hope and that we realize how these funds that we've been talking about are so necessary.
Sure, thank you for that. So I think what I like to say is that everybody and anyone that comes in is facing some kind of barrier, right? So returning citizens, they're facing multiple barriers, right? So sometimes our older workers, they have an age barrier, might be a gender barrier, maybe somebody has a bias barrier, right? But the returning citizens, they're facing multiple barriers. They come out, they've been incarcerated. So one of the biggest barriers is a lot of times they feel like nobody's going to help them. Nobody's going to really give them a second chance. And that's what they get at the Urban League. And I have a lot of success stories, but I'll tell you, one of the most successful programs we've had in reentry is people being able to get like truck driving licenses. So, and it tends to be a really good fit for them because it's like they're sometimes when they come back, like socializing and being in groups, I can't imagine, what being incarcerated, has done to someone, right? But when they come out, to be able to come to the Urban League, come into the reentry program, I know there's somebody there, there to help you that believes in you. And we have success, like the truck drivers we have a client that came in and there's one client he was living in Maryland and he drove up here and he and stayed somewhere just to get in the program to stay in the program end up getting his trucking license because a lot of times they have to clean up their records, clean up their licenses, clean up outstanding all kind of baggage, right? We help them do that, clean it up. And he went to trucking school, he's got a truck driver's license, making really great money, and he got married. So, this is a success story, and we see them in all of the programs. And part of it is that just how do you help a person believe in their ability to overcome, obstacles. That's one thing they get when they come to the Urban League, our shared belief that you can be successful and we can create that pathway together. So a lot of the programs we have, like our Financial Opportunity Center, it's not really case management per se. It's more like a coaching model. Our goal is to be a partner with you in your success, right? So it's a shared goal. We're here with you, but also to give you the tools, to give individuals the tools so they can be successful. And so certainly, that's one of the success stories, but every program has their successes. And and the reentry program is it's not that it's difficult, right? It's difficult because they're facing a lot of pressures when they come out. But knowing they have a support system at the Urban League that they can call their counselor in the evening, at night, and different times. There's somebody always there willing to listen and to provide that support. That's vital. That's vital for people to be able to, stay on course when there are a lot of pressures and things pulling at them, right? So, try not to get back into the same crowd and the same group you're with before because you're trying to create a different pathway. So the whole point is to create a new posse, to create a new cohort of people that are there to support you. And that's the Urban League.
They say, and if you believe that, have you made an impact with your life? Have you made a difference? Well, the answer is yes for my two guests. Darren Sharif, thank you so much for joining us today. Continued success.
Thank you, sir. And to BGO, you guys are a staple in the community institution, and you're going to weather this storm like a strong oak that is deeply planted and roots go in all different directions. So thank you for this opportunity, Doug. I appreciate you.
Appreciate those thoughts as well, Darren. Thank you so much. Vivian Cox Frazier, wow, What a tremendous run you've had, and it continues to this day. Don't forget, October 21st is the gala, and you can get involved by going to the website for the Urban League of Essex County to find out more about that. But it's important, and the work they're doing is indeed making a difference. Thanks, Vivian.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks, BGO.